Now I have to say the thing everybody's thinking, what in the world? What does autism have to do with real estate?
Jennifer, did you break your podcast?
Exactly. What happened? Did we go off? Did I get the wrong podcast? Yes, we are still talking about real estate. Our topic today we're actually going to talk about is why hiring an autistic person to fix your house can change the game. So,
welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day.
Hello, it's Jennifer J. I'm so excited. I have Angela and I would say Lauria here today. Very special guest. She is a doctor. She is the host of Autistic Culture Podcast. She is a late diagnosed autistic who has drawn on her lifelong special interest in nonfiction to help almost 2,000 entrepreneurs write, publish, and promote their books through her company, Difference Press. Angela is also an author herself with 8 books, including a Wall Street Journal and a USA Today bestseller. So I'm going to say, welcome to the show.
Yay! Here, thank you so much.
Now I have to say the thing everybody's thinking, what in the world? What does autism have to do with real estate?
Jennifer, did you break your podcast?
Exactly. What happened? Did we go off? Did I get the wrong podcast? Yes, we are still talking about real estate. Our topic today we're actually going to talk about is why hiring an autistic person to fix your house can change the game. So why should we do this?
Yeah, so autistic people, what connects us all? And you may look at me if you're watching the video or hear my voice and be like, she doesn't sound autistic. I'm not. That's not what I'm picturing. Autism is a neurotype. And so just like any other neurotype, there are lots of people with lots of issues, medical, intellectual disabilities within any neurotype. So about 27% of autistics have intellectual disabilities, but many of us do not. And all of us, intellectual disabilities or not, have one key thing in common. And that thing is monotropic focus. That means we get super obsessed with something, and it could be lions or it could be hot water heaters. And we will learn every single possible thing. Our culture is about data collection and also data manipulation. So understanding how to actually learn from the data we collect and display. So one thing people know about autistic people is they'll picture a little kid like lining up, kind of obsessively lining up their toys. So the reason we line up our toys, we do it as adults too, by the way, is that we are looking for, it's like Highlights magazine. We are looking for differences. We're looking for similarities, and we're cataloging all of that information. So my home story is that when I interview contractors, because I know autistic culture, I look for autistic contractors because they will know more about your system than anyone else, and they will bore their family members while at family meals or holidays. They'll be like, why are you talking about how hot water heaters work? Why are you talking about plumbing? This is so boring. And that is what happens when autistic people in our culture, we call this info dumping. So if you have a contractor who like explained way too many details about your electrical, it is very possible, especially if they've been obsessed with electrical for like 20 or 30 years and they read books on electrical things. They've got their Popular Mechanics whatever American Scientist magazine subscription, and they have them categorized and they're all in the bathroom stocked mile high from 1982. We are the museum owners of the world, and we have our own personal museums. So you can actually learn about autistic culture And then you can spot a contractor who is likely to be extremely meticulous and excited to fix your slightly misaligned floors.
Which is fantastic, especially when you're looking at the house. And I've had home inspectors who are exactly that. They go
a
and
lot of
explain
home
and explain.
inspectors are autistic. A lot of it's a great job for autistic people.
And I love it because it really helps someone understand, especially first-time home buyers. It's like the best blessing ever because they're terrified because they don't know anything. And then to have somebody who's willing not only to explain, but also because they know more. And they're usually, what I have found is they're super, super, I want to say, excited with the enthusiasm of a child. Of did you know this wire, it goes here? And then did you know if the temperature is at this, that this can't happen? And did you know? And you're just like, no, I really didn't know that. And it is actually very helpful. And I'm very grateful for you doing it. And it's so cool because I feel like it's one of the best win-wins because myself, but a lot of the buyers are so grateful for somebody who would take the time to learn all that because I'm not going to learn all that.
So you might know the phrase like trigger warning, or I'm triggered.
Mm-hmm.
In autistic culture, we have a phrase that we use called glimmers. And so when someone asks you, never mind, pays you, right? If you're a home inspector, you're going to get $1,000 for this. When someone asks you about your special interest, you get a glimmer, and it feels to autistic people like the opposite of what a trigger feels like. If you're like, oh, why did they mention my grandmother? I'm triggered.
Right.
Ours is the opposite. It's like we get a glimmer and we're like, you want to hear about your eaves? Let me explain. Like, these eaves have been through it all. I'm going to give you 100-year history. You're like, I didn't even know what an eave was, but sure, let's talk about my roof. And it's the one time you actually will care about that. I mean, unless it's broken. But at your home inspection, it's like, you're like, no, tell me about the hot water heater. What year was it built? How am I supposed to service it? Like,
and how long is it going to last? And
right.
And is this, and it's so funny because I've seen so many times again, and these are such fun details, especially as a real estate agent to experience and to watch homeowners just with big wide eyes be like, why are you saying that I have a good hot water heater when it's ancient? Yeah, like it's old. And they're like, yeah, but the new ones. And then they'll go through all the details of why the new ones, they're not built as well as the old ones. And then you're like, by the time you finish, you have a totally new appreciation for the guts of your house.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
I do. I totally love it. So real estate agents are very rarely autistic. So when
That's
you
true.
look at autistic culture, we do great with like deep dives and not being distracted. So one of the reasons why we have social communication challenges or end up in fights is like, if my monotropic focus is my snake and I am looking at my snake and you would like me to do anything else, like take a shower, I am going to fight with you, my mom, for making me not look at my snake. I'm like logging important information. But real estate agents have to be able to, like, there's a phone call rate, there's somebody calling, something's changing, they're negotiating, and they're very flexible with time and schedules. And that's really hard for us. But when it comes to specialists, like the guy, I know you used to live in the DC area. I go all the way to Silver Spring to get my tires done. And it's this old guy who's clearly autistic who knows everything about tires. He's just like a tire genius. And I'm like, for this 1 hour, I am willing for you to tell me everything about tires. Mostly I do not care, but please, my friend, info dump on me about tires. So when we can find those specialist service people that are excited to work on our problem, whatever our house is bothering us with now, it's like, that is such a gift from autistic culture, I think, to the rest of the world, which is why I agree. Autistic culture.
I was going to say, and I agree it so much. And I love that you brought that up, especially because, like, I'll give you another example. I had a time where the home inspector that we had said that all the plumbing pipes he was not autistic in any way, and he was not good at communicating. And he said all the pipes in the whole house have to be repaired. Now, I represented the seller. So the seller is about having a fit. Like, I have taken really good care of this house. There's no, how could all the pipes, every pipe? So of course the buyer is unfortunately a first-time home buyer. So now we are in search of an autistic person who loves pipes and loves this year home in Northern Virginia. And it's a very specific neighborhood, right outside of Great Falls, where it's interesting because the pipes were an interesting mixture of materials. So they're not all one material. So some of them are metals and some of them are plastic PVC kind of things. And so we need somebody who is really interested in all the details, because we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars in difference, and also losing the deal because the buyers are afraid if they don't understand it and if they don't think they can afford it, they're just going to walk away. So we need that person who absolutely loves, as you like your tire person. I want to know everything you can possibly tell me about pipes in Great Falls, Virginia.
Right. Yeah. Autistic people have hyper-connected brains, and we process 42% more information than neurotypicals. And that is why you, as a neurotypical, if you're listening, neurotypical might feel flooded or bored or overwhelmed by our level of detail. But if you're that first-time home buyer and you see this much detail, it may give you confidence that this isn't one problem and there are others, because the specificity will make it clear. Like, here's what the issue was. This is the year the upgrade happened. Here's the part we need to fix. And here's why it's not a symptom of more problems.
Exactly. That was so well said. And I think that's, and I guess the other part of my purpose of being really, number one, wanting you to come on, but two, to really kind of sort through some ideas, is because I think so often people are so afraid of walking through, I want to say, landmines of not knowing, well, how do I communicate with someone who is autistic? And what if I challenge them to do something and they didn't know how to tell me no, or that they didn't know how to do it, or they're afraid. And I think that was part of the reason I was so excited to have you, is because I want you to just not be afraid to just find the right person for the right job. And this is one of those where it's like you just said, a home inspector that's autistic is so perfect, but also an autistic who is perfect whatever the thing that they love. Is it flooring? Is it pipes?
Tiles are great, because tiles have to be so carefully measured. And if you are somebody who that will drive nuts, or having your soap dish just like 1 degree off, that's another one to look for. So I want to share one thing about like diagnosis. Yeah. So I talk very openly about being autistic, but I do not recommend when someone comes to your home to be like, hello, are you autistic? And also most of us don't know. Autism is highly underdiagnosed, especially my generation, especially women, but my generation in general. So I'm 50. We now have more diagnoses happening, but most of us were missed and we were told to just shut up and sit down and stop asking questions. So you're not looking for their medical papers. You're not going to ask them, are you autistic? What you're looking for is their attention to detail. And when we're hiring, we tend to hire people like us sort of naturally. The more like me you are, the more likely I am to like you. And so what you want to look for that's different in a contractor is how much data they are sharing. How many details are they noticing? Are they showing up with lists or a schedule or a plan that this is going to be how it works? Do they seem, I might say, like a little dictatorish, that they're like, when you work with me, this is what we do? Those are typical things in our culture. So that person might not even know they're autistic. That's why I host the Autistic Culture Podcast. Because when I see, I don't know, an Aran sweater, I know that's Irish culture, even if I don't know the person is Irish. Or when I see a cannoli, I know that's Italian culture, even though I don't know if that person's Italian. So I know how to spot autistic culture. And if I was hiring a real estate agent, that is the last person I would hire. And if I was hiring a tile guy, it's the first person I'd hire. So knowing our culture just helps you, like, Italian bricklayers are great. Like, certain cultures have different strengths, and this is ours.
And I appreciate it so much. And I was going to say, I want to make sure that people know, like, about your podcast, and also how can they get to know more, social media, anything you're willing to share.
Yes. So our podcast is at autisticculturepodcast.com. autisticculturepodcast.com. So pretty easy. And then there are articles and information there on that site, as well as our podcast. But you could find the Autistic Culture Podcast in any podcast player. You can also find us over on X, which I think that's what we call Twitter now. I'm still adjusting.
Me too.
Yep. Okay. Anyway, over there, Autistic Culture Podcast. And what's really fun about our show is you can pick out something you're interested in, anything. So it could be Disney, or it could be Star Wars, or it could be Magic the Gathering, anything that's interesting to you. We have a podcast episode on it. And in that, we will share how that represents autistic culture. So we just did an episode on female comedians. And so if you like stand-up comedy, listen to that episode and you will learn how to spot and identify autistic culture. It's not a medical show. Our focus is on autistic joy. So we put the yay in autistic culture. Yeah. There's nothing to fix. We just do a lot of yay and a lot of celebration of this is what we're good at. And don't hire us for other things we're not good at.
Exactly. And I think that's true for just everybody, is to, stop trying to be somebody you're not. Do what you love, and and you'll find more yays in your day. But I also want to just briefly touch on the fact that you do help entrepreneurs, right, publish and promote their books. Will you talk a little bit about Difference Press?
Yeah, absolutely. So my special interest from a super young age was books. So I wrote my first book when I was 5 years old. I wrote my second book at 7, and paid my way through college by writing other people's papers. Guilty admission. $10 a page. Those are the good old days of the 90s.
Wow.
So got my first job. I was actually still in college, working for a New York Times bestselling author on Connecticut Avenue in DC. And to date, I've helped about 2,000 people write their books, either as a ghostwriter, an editor, or providing publishing services for manuscripts they already have. So it's my favorite thing to do. And it's my equivalent of being a tile guy or a plumber. I can fix anyone's book. I am a book doctor, and I never get sick of talking about it. So,
oh, that's fantastic. Well, it is such a joy. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to know you, and I'd love to have you back on and talk about some more topics. But today we have to go. So I'm going to ask you to lift your voice and say yay with me as we go off the air. Is that okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This is